Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Daryl Amy.
Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Daryl Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
I tell you what isn't going on? Always great seeing you. Fall's well in the air. Football's well into the football season. It's all good, Daryl.
And it's a great day at Selling from the Heart. We got James Hoard in the house. Just get ready to take some notes. This is going to be a phenomenal conversation. And here we are at square in the middle of fall. We're many people pushing towards closing out this year. And I know one thing that's helpful in a day where I get lost in the middle of all the details of prospecting, client management, and everything I'm doing to try to close business. And that is sometimes I need some motivation, Larry.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you do. And you know what? And one thing that's just, you know what? I enjoy doing this is the daily dose of inspiration. I think sometimes we just need a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of push, a little bit of encouragement. Is every day I give y'all something to think about. It's a fresh idea, a fresh thought, just to get you through the day, get you thinking. I'll always leave you with an action item.
Go to sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. Get your daily dose of inspiration served fresh every morning to keep you inspired, motivated, and fired up as we head towards the end of this year. It's a great resource, sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. And one of the best things about Selling from the Heart is the great community of sales professionals and sales leaders who believe in authenticity.
And one I just want to give a huge shout out to is Dan Gilroy. Over the past year, I have absolutely enjoyed getting to know Dan. He leads a great group of salespeople inside the food services industry. One amazing leader, wears his heart on his sleeve. Dan, I sincerely appreciate you.
Shout out, Dan. We appreciate the community inside Selling from the Heart. And we're talking about leadership today. Dan is an incredible leader, and we've got an incredible coach of leaders coming to join us on the podcast today. We've got the distinct pleasure of hosting James Hoard, a seasoned professional with a deep well of expertise in sales and leadership. With 25 fruitful years of leading sales teams under his belt, James is not just any sales strategist. He's a coach, a teacher, and a mentor. He's invested heavily in his own growth, evidenced by his affiliation with the renowned John Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, and his impressive array of certifications in coaching, leadership, speaking, and DISC. Driven by a mission to foster positive change and produce tangible results in others, he recently wrote his debut book titled Break the Cycle: The 8 Essentials of Effective Sales Leadership. Let's dive into a riveting conversation with James and unearth the goldmine of insights he brings to the table. James, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast. It's great to have you here.
Good to see you guys. Good to be here.
James Hoard, awesome to see you again.
Good to see you, Larry, Daryl. It's awesome to be here.
Excited about this conversation as it gets started. James, you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. And that is, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Been waiting for this question all day. Simple definition for me, it is a genuine desire to help. Simple as that. A genuine desire to help.
I love it because, and I'm glad you brought the word help. I'm just going to go back. I remember it was one of the very first podcasts I was on, James, and somebody had asked me, in one short, concise sentence, how would you define sales? And I said, it's all the art of the help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that. I love the answer.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to helping to selling from the heart, and you kind of parallel that over to sales leadership and doing that from the heart, this whole concept of helping is such an important thing. You just got this book published, by the way. Congratulations. Break the Cycle: The 8 Essentials of Effective Sales Leadership. What I love about this book, James, is it's not born out of theory. It's born out of practice, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the University of Hard Knocks. Can you catch us up a little bit on your background and what brought you to where we are here today?
Yeah, I started my sales career by accident, as many sellers do.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, it's crazy. So my degree's in rehabilitation. I served in nonprofit out of college and then moved to Chicago in 1996 and stumbled into sales, answered an ad in the newspaper to sell copiers and fax machines.
There you go. All right, James.
Part of the club.
Yeah, and got my first sales leadership job in the late 90s and fell in love with it because it allowed me to tap into wanting to serve others in an area where I could make a pretty decent living. So it worked out.
Yeah.
And then bounced around to a couple of companies throughout the 20-something years and just always had a passion to help people get to where they wanted to go. So that's how the book was born. It was about ways that were successful, things that failed miserably. Just use my experience as a research field, really.
Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed reading the book, and I got a sneak peek on it, many, many months ago. As you started putting the book together and you look back on your experience, what were some of the ahas that you learned moving up the ranks and then getting into sales leadership that you poured into this book? What were some of the 2 or 3 key takeaways?
The biggest takeaway, and I tell this story, so it's not really, it wasn't an aha really in my sales leadership journey. It was a tie between an experience that I had when I was a kid and an experience I had with my first sales team. So if I could tell a quick story, it would help. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I'm from Middle Georgia, grew up in the panhandle of Florida, and we used to go to my parents' farm in Middle Georgia. And we were driving up there one day, and I was in the back seat with my brothers. And out of nowhere, I said, "Daddy, you know what I'm going to do when I turn 18?" And being a dad now, I can only imagine what my dad was thinking. He's like, "What now?" I said, "I'm going to rent a semi truck and pick up hitchhikers and take them where they want to go." Now, at 9 or 10 years old, my dad's probably like, "What in the heck?" That served as the foundation of my leadership journey, because my job as a sales leader was helping my reps get from where they were to where they wanted to go, regardless of the direction that we took. They wanted to move forward. So that was an experience that I really drew back on, because my very first sales team, I was probably a sales leader for 6 months, and I was in a one-on-one with a rep, and it was toward the end of the fiscal year. I was a new leader. I couldn't make the President's Club trip. He could, but I wasn't helping. And this person, he looked at me and he goes, "James, this is not about you." And that connected with that story of taking hitchhikers where they wanted to go. So from that day on, it was a commitment to, no matter what, meet my reps where they were and take them where they wanted to go.
I love that mindset. And it's so cool because our friends who are in sales, who are our producers, this is the exact same mindset around helping a client or a prospect get from where they are to where they want to go. You talk about 9 essentials of effective sales leadership, which we're going to get into today. I'm sorry, there's 8 of them. I added one. It's 8 essentials.
I'm sure we can do that.
Hey, Daryl, it was a baker's dozen. It wasn't even
That's
dozen.
Right. No, it'll be the next book, the 9th essential. There we go. But you talk about the 8 essentials of effective sales leadership. But I'm curious, what do you see that's ineffective in sales leadership right now? Like, where do people get it wrong?
That is a great question. So I have this analogy. I describe it as door number 1 or door number 2. Door number 1 would be the answer to your question, which I've experienced in every sales organization that I've worked, where the struggles are very, very similar. Low productivity per rep, low close rate, and as a result, the organizations spend most of their time and resources trying to train the sellers. Let's train them on maybe a new sales methodology. Maybe it's the 3rd one in 5 years. Let's teach them how to negotiate, how to close. And there's little emphasis on the sales leader. And what happens is productivity goes down. So the management of activity has to go up. Maybe you use the lovely PIP to try to drive productivity. We maybe turn somebody over and rehire them, and then the cycle just starts. Door number two, which is kind of the whole theory of the book, is a focus on helping the sales leaders, who I believe are the force multipliers within any sales organization, to be able to drive behavior change, help them get better. By nature, it will help each of their sellers get better.
And you know what I like about this, and I'm going to look at this through a couple different lenses. We always want to just poo-pooey salespeople and just throw darts at salespeople. This is what they're doing wrong. This is what they're doing right. However, they're products in the environments they were raised in, which then, if we just started going up the ladder a little bit, leads right towards management and leadership. And they're kind of caught in the middle of all of this. And I think you'd agree, James. And it's just, if we took this one step above, and if you could speak to who sales leaders roll into for a moment, what would you say? Because we all know salespeople are going to roll into the managers and leaders, and the managers and leaders are going to roll up to senior executives and so forth. So speak to the senior executives on why it's so important to pour into their leadership.
Yeah. I mean, being a John Maxwell guy, John says everything rises and falls on leadership. And if I'm a senior leader within an organization, my number one priority would be helping my leaders execute to the best of their ability, training them, helping them understand it's not about training. It's about how that training helps drive behavior change that's necessary to get the results. Because without a behavior change, there is no improved results. So as a senior leader, it really comes down to how am I engaging my team leads, or even maybe my leaders of leaders, to help drive the culture of achievement that sales organizations strive for in the first place.
Such a powerful concept. And the ability to lead leaders, like you said, is the force multiplier. And in just a few moments, I want to really dive into some of these 8 essentials of effective sales leadership. And for our friends who are sales professionals, the things that we're going to talk about today, you can apply to yourself as well, because we believe that all sales professionals are leaders. So this is going to be a great conversation. We're going to take a brief break to hear from our sponsors. And I'm really excited as well to hear the answer to the question, what it means to sell from the heart, from our good friend at Objective Management Group, Dave Curlin. So let's hear from our sponsor, from Dave Curlin, and then we'll rejoin this incredible conversation with James Hoard.
Are you ready to take your career to the next level?
One of the best ways we found to do that is to surround yourself with like-hearted sales professionals.
And we've heard that saying, you're the sum of the people that you hang out with.
Well, if you want to hang out with some sales professionals that also want to take their career to the next level and believe in selling from the heart, we invite you to join us in the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group.
This is a weekly gathering of like-hearted, like-minded sales professionals and sales leaders. We truly build community each and every week.
One of our favorite things is they're up close and personal with thought leaders, former podcast guests, and people that challenge us to grow in sales. We would like you to join us for our next up close and personal. Just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. That's sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. And we look forward to seeing you in the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group.
To me, it's all about showing your passion. And so many salespeople stiffen up when they meet a prospect for the first time, when they need to present something. But like hanging out with you guys before the show started, kidding around and laughing. And even funny people tend to stiffen up and get all too serious and act all too professional. And that's not who they really are. You've got to be able to lighten up with people. And if you really love what you're doing, selling professionally, and you love what you're selling, then you've got to let that come through. So be who you are, lighten up, let your passion come through, and people will see that and want to do business with you.
Oh, I love Dave Curlin.
So fun. Dave, just a huge shout out. We appreciate our friends over at Objective Management Group. And if you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of the Selling from the Heart podcast, just text the word video to 21,000. And all you got to do is take that smartphone, put it right in front of your face, record your answer, send it over, and you could be featured on a future episode. Well, we're having a great conversation today with James Hoard, author of Break the Cycle, the 8 Essentials of Effective Sales Leadership. So James, coach us a little bit. What's one of the essentials that you think is maybe the most essential that people tend to get wrong or just ignore altogether?
Daryl, that's a loaded question. All eight are essential. That's why I called them 8 essential.
Well, I want the one that's very essential.
James, this is like one. This is like one.
The most essential. Okay. I believe that the most essential for any sales leader is the 8th essential in the book, which is have a coach first mentality. And what I mean by that is so many times when I interact with sales leaders, their definition of coaching resembles what many organizations believe is coaching, which is I am now coaching my 8-year-old football team. So I have to tell them what to do, maybe yell and scream a little bit to get on the sidelines. That's not what coaching is. Coaching is about an authentic conversation, authentic relationship where I, the coach, am asking you, the seller in this case, questions to help you self-assess what's happening so you can determine the best way, your best path forward. So coach first mentality, it's not my definition of coaching. It just happens to be the definition of professional coaching. That's without that, the other essentials fall apart, quite frankly.
So I got to take a hard right just for a second because I'm a sports guy. Daryl, you can rope this back into the book, but y'all just got to hang out with me on this one. I'm sitting here listening to, you talk about coaching and all that and looking at this. Hopefully you're a sports guy or you have to be. Yes, you're absolutely. A Chicago guy, so
all right now.
Yeah, you're right now.
Sports, not Chicago sports.
It's all good. But when you look at coaches that are out there today, what are some of the coaches you look up to, whether they be in sports or just coaches in general? Who does James look up to and why? I'm just curious.
Oh my goodness! Well, this is going to pain me to say this in public because I'm a Florida State Seminole diehard. I was there before Bowden was there. Not didn't go there. We were in Tallahassee, but anyway, Nick Saban. You have to tip your hat to Nick Saban. And I use him in some of my teaching as an analogy because, his focus is not worrying about the scoreboard. Don't worry about whether or not you're winning or losing. Let's just focus on what does good execution for you look like? Mm-hmm. And if you do that over time and everybody else around you does that over time, then you're going to win more than you lose. So as a sales leader, it really brings in this, this desire to help rep A or rep B, or maybe I have 10 reps. My job is to help them do their best job, to help them realize what their best job is. And then collectively as a team, when everyone does that, then the team's successful. So I have to say Nick Saban as much as anyway.
Well, you can say it through gritted teeth. And there's some truth to that. The consistency there of that program and the consistency of his coaches underneath is really, really incredible. So keep going on this. We got 8 essentials of effective sales leadership. And by the way, if you're listening in, grab a copy of the book. If you're a sales leader, you're going to love it. Break the Cycle, 8 Essentials of Effective Sales Leadership by James Hoard. If you're not a sales rep, buy one and give it to your leader. It'd be a great gift, in all of this. And you can tell that, these are areas where we need to grow. So what are some of the other essentials of sales leadership that people tend to miss?
Yeah, the essential 2. Essential 2 is you must see what is happening. And what that essential really unpacks is if I, as a sales leader, am committed to helping my seller execute well, then I have to see them execute. So there's a couple of questions that I unpack in the book. Do you know, or do you think you know? And then what is the evidence? As a sales leader, if I don't see my reps execute, then I have no business trying to help them move forward because I don't really know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So as a sales leader, when I'm dealing with one of my sellers, I'll go, okay, do I know what's happening or do I think I know? Because if I think I know, I don't know. So I need to go figure it out, which is observe what they're doing. And then observation is all based on evidence. What do I actually see or hear if it's maybe a virtual call or whatever? That's another big miss that I see. Leaders aren't spending a lot of quality time with their sellers.
Oh, here on that one. And it's That one's probably the most important, because if I look back on all my years selling, some of the best times I had was when I was riding out with one of my managers or one of my leaders and so forth. And I would encourage everyone out there. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going on until you know what's going on. And that means you got to get up from around your desk and you got to go out in the field with your salespeople. And that's some of the best coaching. That's coaching right there on the spot.
That's right. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations over the years, we have an appointment, we get in the car, we start driving, and we start to debrief the call. And, there was a structure that I would use, but we just get to the conversation. And I would say, this is what I heard in the call. And the rep would go, I didn't say that. I'm like, no, I wrote it down. This is exactly what you said. So there's just such a cool experience to interact with your sellers, because you have real stuff to talk about. It's pretty cool.
So powerful. So if somebody is, we've got a lot of people who are aspiring to be a sales leader someday. Once again, maybe they're in a producer role now, but they know on their career path that this is something they want to consider. What would you say to someone in sales that aspires to be a sales leader in terms of coaching them on how to prepare themselves to step into that role effectively?
Yeah, there's a great book, Break the Cycle, the 8 Essentials. That was
Nicely
too
played.
easy. That was too easy. I do believe foundational leadership skills are important. So whatever, there's so many good resources that are out there around just effective leadership. And I'm a Maxwell guy. So, he has just so many good resources. Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Those are like foundational things to help you start to think about what it would mean to be a leader. In addition to that, I love questions. Questions drive potential change, if you will, and the quality of the question drives the quality of the answer. So as a sales rep, if you really want to be a leader, start to ask yourself, okay, what type of leader do I want to be? What does that look like? If I was going to be a leader tomorrow, what would I start to do? And take their own personal experiences, because most people probably have those leaders that they really loved working for. And on the flip side, some of the ones that were a little more challenging to work for. So start to figure out what was good about this person, what was maybe not so awesome about this person, to determine what your style is going to be.
So I still want to camp on, salespeople who are aspiring to be leaders. And there's a reason why I'm going to ask this question here in a second. Is I was one of those people that was really good at sales and was at the top of the sales rank that got pushed into sales management and bombed. But, hindsight. But now I believe that salespeople, because I get asked this all the time, what book should salespeople read? And I want to set sales books aside for a second, because I believe salespeople should read leadership books wholeheartedly. I think they should. So setting your book aside, your wonderful book, James, is what are a couple leadership books that you would encourage salespeople to read?
Yeah, I'll take one from John Maxwell. I think he just put out Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. It's a second version of one of his early books. Really good, foundational, pure leadership practices that apply to sales or non-sales or whatever it is. So that's the first one. And then the second one, and I had it in my head and it just slipped me. The Road Less Stupid, I think, is the name of it. And it is all about using quality thinking time to drive your decisions. I believe it is called The Road Less Stupid.
Interesting.
I believe that's what it's called.
All right.
The Road Less Stupid. Yeah.
I love that. We'll have to check that out. And, this is such an important conversation. I love the advice that you gave to aspiring sales leaders. And Larry, I agree wholeheartedly with you as well, because if you're in the sales role, chances are, first of all, you're selling to leaders. If you're selling into any level of the C-suite or going, to the top of the organization in B2B, and many of our B2C producers as well are selling to leaders. So reading leadership books is one of the best ways to get inside the mind in the heart of those people. And it also does prepare you if you make the decision that you want to adjust, move the career into the leadership position. And so, James, I think what you've put together is just incredibly helpful. First of all, thank you for taking the time to write this book and share your decades of experience distilled into a book. What an incredible gift to the world. So I want to encourage everybody to go grab a copy. Second question is, I know a lot of people listening in are thinking, I need more James Hoard in my life. So how can folks get more James in their life?
Oh my goodness. I'm just an average guy. So I don't have some fancy website or anything like that, but they can get me on LinkedIn's James Hoard. They can buy a copy of the book. All of my contact information is on LinkedIn. I'm always open for conversations about, sales excellence, leadership development, college football. All my information is there on LinkedIn.
Oh, I love it. But before we wrap up, just give us 60 seconds, right, to that aspiring leader out there who's enjoying hanging out with us, watching us, have this conversation. What would you share in 60 seconds, 90 seconds to that aspiring leader? What are a couple of things you can inspire them to become better at?
Oh, man. Larry, you started down this track a minute ago around when you got kind of bumped into leadership as a really successful seller, because a lot of successful sellers become leaders because their organization said, hey, if you can do it, then you can help other people do it. And I'm here to say that not the best sellers make the best sellers don't necessarily make the best leaders. So as an inspiring leader, person who's a seller, I would say, start to get your mind around this idea that it's not about you. It's not about the way you do it. It's not about the way you did it. It's about getting your mind around how do you help someone do it the best version that they know how. That is the essence of coaching. So as a high-level seller who is being asked to sell, ask yourself, what's the reason that I'm going to get into leadership? Because if it's to have the title, if it's to make more money, that ain't going to happen. It really comes down to, do I really want to serve other people and help them become the best version of themselves? And if you can check that box, man, take a leadership plunge and grow yourself on a regular basis.
Love it. Love it. Well, James, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. You are a true Selling from the Heart champion. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Oh,
what a
good
phenomenal
stuff,
conversation.
Darryl.
Yeah, absolutely. And from beginning to end, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in here that I think our sales leaders can take to heart, our aspiring sales leaders can take to heart, and any sales professional, because sales people, we are leaders. John Maxwell himself, the great one, said leadership is influence. Sales is influence. So this all works together. And I hope, of course, if you're a sales leader, you're going to dive into this book, Breaking the Cycle, the 8 Essentials of Effective Sales Leadership. And if you're not a sales leader, we want to challenge you, grow in the area of leadership. It's going to help you out.
No, immensely. And we just didn't have enough time. We'll have to have James back. But, when I read his book, there was one that really stood out. And I believe it's the first essential in the book. And he talks about serving and that serving mentality. And here's what I'd ask for us to think about, Darryl, as you wrap up the podcast is, and I wholeheartedly believe this as a leader, if you pour into your people, if you lean into your people, if you serve your people, they will run through a brick wall for you. And they will take exactly what you do and they will duplicate and they will replicate that out in the field in how they take care of their clients. So I would just urge all the leaders that are out there, serve your people, lean into them and watch what happens.
I love it. Well, thank you to everybody that is liking, sharing, and most of all, leaving reviews on the podcast. Those reviews help us spread this movement of authenticity right here in the sales profession. Make sure to like or subscribe on the platform on which you listen, because Larry, we got some great stuff coming up this fall and on into the new year.
Oh, absolutely. We got all kinds of great stuff. There'll be some major announcements coming here soon as we start pushing towards into December and early January. Stay tuned for that. Super exciting stuff.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody in the community. Grab your daily dose of inspiration at sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. And until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, grow your leadership skills, and most of all,
sell from the heart.